Got a whole stack of lunch items. Gonna be sharing a little bit of Uncaged Eden, maybe a little bit of Stylish Transient. Also, here's the new book I'm working on. I think it's called Holy G's. If you've been following along, I got the whole playlist of shorts. I've been sharing it. I'm just this far into it. It'll probably end up long. You know how I write. Before I really get started, I'm going to say a prayer, some gratitude for this abundance. This morning before on Kajit, I like to just kind of flip open to a page, and then that's where it's like the lessons a lot of times are just, it's the type of book you don't have to read the whole way through. You can just kind of pick it up. This morning I picked it up and opened it up and to a prayer that was inside of here. So I'm just going to say this prayer, which is interesting for me to recite a prayer, but I'll say this as this kind of offering of gratitude. Sit my little spirit plate, my spirit food down. It says, Creator, thank you for this life. I'm so humbled by all that you provide in this abundant universe. Thank you for this way to pray and for helping my heart to resonate with it so deeply. Please help me to share this connection with my brothers and sisters, to inspire them to begin their own journey of transformation and to provide guidance as they face the lessons I've already learned. Please help me with humility. I'm grateful for the gifts you've given me, but I know that I must continue to exercise them every day. It's hard to stay humble in a world built on ego, but your constant reminders of the wisdom to be gained by others help me to remember my walk on this path, and that I have so much farther to travel. Thank you for keeping my heart in such a way that I have no fear of this material world, that I feel connected to the universe as it allows me to move across Unchimaka unencumbered, without doubt that she will take care of me, and with the perseverance to take care of her along the way. Please help to keep all of the water protectors walking in a good way, with prayers in their hearts as they move along their onward journeys. And wherever they may be across our Turtle Island, please help to keep them safe, warm, and nourished as they receive the healing that we all dearly need, so that we may continue to do the work that you've asked of us. We are so lucky to be alive at this critical point of our planet's evolution, and grateful to carry this responsibility through her metamorphosis. It is an honor, not a burden. And once again, I pray that my brothers and sisters will wake up in time to join us. Aho, Matakurasen. Oh, Wopila. I was just sharing that excerpt from Uncaged Eden. I was going to eat some lunch here and share some of the books. I just kind of flipped open this morning. This is the kind of book you just kind of flip open to a page and it's got the kind of thing exactly what you needed at that moment. That's why it's nice to have it in print. And that was that prayer that I had written, when I was spending time traveling with a native grandma. Anyway, got some lunch here. I'm going to eat and share some words. All of my books are available for free download all over the internet. Amazon charges for them. I do them as free as I can sometimes. But Amazon's you have to petition them. But they're also available for print on Amazon. Like I said, this one's real nice to have in print just because you can kind of flip it open. And it's got excerpts of metafiction, of metaphysical stuff, spirituality, of real life social issues going on at different camps that I've been a part of. My latest one, Stylish Transient, a lot thinner. I figured out how to compact it down. And then this new book that I've been working on right now. The name right now is kind of Holy G's is the name of it. I'm only probably 20 pages in or so, but I've been sharing everything live as I write it on a playlist that I put in the description, a link. I don't know if you can click the link or not, but there's a playlist on this channel. So just every day I write a paragraph, a sentence, or a paragraph, or whatever it is I write, and I just put that into a short. And so you can watch that playlist all the way from start to finish and kind of keep up with this book. And then as people have been commenting about the book, I've been taking that into account. So you can comment on to videos of this playlist, the one that's called, it's like DJ's New Book or something. And you comment on there. I've been writing a lot about homelessness and about, because I started this project building earth bag houses. called Unsheltered Earth. We built those in South Dakota on the reservation, and now I've got this new gig. I'm a project engineer on this transitional housing. It's like a 4-story transitional housing apartment complex thing with the local homeless shelter. So as folks are chronically homeless but working their way transitioning back into living in society, it's like a midway point. So a lot of people, anytime I talk about traveling or hitchhiking or, I didn't use money for 8 years, writing all these books, giving them away for free, doing humanitarian stuff, living on the reservation, living on farms. People always, are like, bum, get a job, this or that. It's well, obviously I've been able to work a lot harder without the job than I would have with it. But so it was good. So as people have been commenting on these videos, it's given me, greater context of what's resonating with folks or what issues to address. So check that out. This playlist that's on my channel. It's called, I changed the name to DJ's New Book. Yeah, so that prayer, that excerpt was from this. I'll read a little bit. Well, I'll read a little bit more from that one, I guess. So this book, I just like to kind of open it up, and whatever page I open it up to, it seems to be the good thing. Got some crackers, some charcuterie, some cheese, and sausages. I got some vegetables and fruits. So I also write a lot about agriculture, a lot about hoarding food, or this agricultural hierarchy of land ownership, property ownership, owning the food and then charging it to another. And so let's see what it's been a bunch of years since I wrote this. I didn't write this in 2017. I don't even remember how it goes. Who am I to judge another's frugal freezing of accounts? It's much cheaper to buy in bulk and stow away, plus there's less polluted packaging. Even though I've dropped out of economics, when I'm living within the cage, someone is paying the price of filling my stomach. Here, it's Unchi, the grandma that I was staying with, or it's her gracious government's assistance, but there's no thought of scarcity. She understands that my path of moneyless manifestation has brought me here for a reason. She doesn't hesitate to feed me, as I didn't back out when our roles were reversed. At camp at Standing Rock, I was the chef, so all winter I was out there cooking for everybody. And so I'm talking about, stashing food or storing food, and so people are storing food in their cabinets, and grocery stores storing food, and we feel like we're in some worldwide food shortage. But every month, the average human wastes 24 pounds of food, whether that's scraps being thrown away or food that didn't get eaten, or the grocery stores that are then throwing everything out into the dumpster that then is not being eaten. And so it's not a food shortage. It's a agricultural hierarchy built on they don't want you to get the food for free that they're throwing in the dumpster, because they want you to pay for it. And if the USDA determines that there's too much of a certain food, then they'll go destroy it and they'll go burn it out in the field. But there's no food shortage. It's a perceived shortage of the way that we operate. It's gonna be hard to eat and read at the same time. We'll see how it goes. She feels compelled in her heart to support her family as they continue the work we began last winter. She would rather starve than to see her loved ones getting trapped by the machine that chews them up faster than the earth plows it under. Though, as much of a joy as I am to be around, I'm also just a convenient distraction while she deals with the actual cages around her actual family. Every day is filled with calls to prisons and governors. Still not sure who's more racist, though my first hint is the 7 years that her son is facing for an empty marijuana capsule that was purchased legally 2 states away. The depressing part isn't the bit about his baby's due date being before his court date. It's when we uncover the web of profits that provide the jurisdiction to enslave the locals, as we copy and paste colonization over top of their freedom. But I just got into town. Plenty of all that stuff later. You got any weed? And she did, of course, but just a bit. Probably enough for a South Dakota death sentence, but with 2 OGs like us, we ought to be out by the morning. On the res, all you can get is brickweed, the seedy dregs of a compressed cannabis unseen in America since the 90s. No news here, though. Our country offloads all of their substandard farmies onto third world nations, the same nations we spread disease into as we suck the health out of the land. But in Pierre, we don't have a guy, and we can't even walk around into a store for organic strawberries, let alone a scrambled brownie. We don't let it slow us down, though. Smoke them if you got them. And the next day we're scraping bowls, and the next day we're melting an old cartridge, and the next day we don't even try. Not a story of desperate fiends, but a comical tale of a sweet little grandmother and her transient companion, as they pull out all the ingenuity they can muster. But enough is enough. We've got to find some buds today. We have a few missions around town, so I dug my Grateful Dead shirt out of somewhere. Oh, I thought We have a few missions about town, so I dug my Grateful Dead shirt out from somewhere. But I thought that, oh, whatever, hippie. It really is the ticket to finding the one hippie in a sea of hipsters, or electropunks, or racist red states. So it generally attracts all those in search of heady nugs. Now I just got to find those purple corduroys. I grab a squash from her neighbor's house before we go, out of an old squash patch that replaced half of her front yard. Oh my god. Way to go, team. That's about what I'm talking about. That's the exact thing I've been talking about. She recognized that a growth of food to share was far better use of her time, energy, love, land, and even money than some legal grass that society won't let you grow. So we walked by her front yard, picked a squash, yet another dream come true. Now, if we could only have rounded out her meal as we rounded the cornerstones of colonization. Hard to follow, I know, just being out of context. This whole book, Uncaged, is about, how we've caged the earth. We've caged this Garden of Eden. We talk about prisons, we talk about fences, talk about this land ownership. It's talking about that we turn our yards into grass, and we don't want the flowers growing in the grass, and we don't want the grass growing in the flowers. When if everybody's front yard had squash growing like that lady's, well, Unchi's my grandma's neighbor, and then in your yard you grew beans and corn, and then we didn't have these imaginary lines, these borders of that this is my land and I don't want you to be on this land, and I will take care of this one. If the food was just freely growing there, if this was an apple tree and everybody could just come get apples. That's how the garden operates. That's how the natives operated the garden forever. When the colonizers first showed up here, they reported back to Europe. They said it's like the Garden of Eden over there. It's like it's a manicured garden. Yeah, it was a manicured garden. It was a tended garden. And so, it's the more that we come back into a place of living in harmony with the earth, recognizing that the earth is an abundant mother. It's not a resource. It's not a resource for us to use. It's a sentient being that we are sentient cells of, that our job is to be here to tend to us, to our mother, to this being that we're a part of. We're not anything separate from the earth. We are the earth in her current evolution. We are the universe in its current evolution, here experiencing itself. We are existence, here experiencing existence through the earth that we are a part of, as our cells and our finger are a part of us. They're not anything separate than us. We are a momentary experience of existence. We are a wave in the ocean. We also are still the ocean, A single drop of the ocean is all of the ocean. A single cell of your body has all the DNA to reconstruct your entire body. A single cell of an acorn has all the DNA to evolve an entire forest. A single cell of the earth, one of her organs, an organism, it's not separate from the earth. They are the earth. You are the earth. You are the universe. With this beautiful opportunity to get to experience all of this vibrance. Again, I just randomly open up to a page. That's why I love Uncaged. Just broken up into all these little segments. Probably a lot hard to digest the whole thing all at once, but it's kind of busted open. Atoms in motion, spinning around. Planets are forming. Orbits are found. Earth ever changing. No time to rest. We're meant to be mobile. I won't settle for less. Unchimaka, it's the earth, grandmother earth. Unchimaka is a nomad, a wandering wonder. She never stops her rotating revolutions. Her liquid consistency has birthed drifting continents. Her elements of change erode any sense of permanence from her timeline. Every cell of her being is gravitationally intertwined with the movements of the collective. The swirls of her species can be likened to that of her atmosphere, always flowing, never standing still, because to stop is to perish. It is to give up on the continuation of coalition. To fear the unknown and hide behind the walls of our mind's fabrication is to seal our fate within the claustrophobic tomb of a concrete civilization. To construct these cages of separation is not to cut our umbilical cord into adulthood, it is to cut the lifeline that connects us to mission control as we chaotically hurtle disconnected through space. Trying to stop right in the middle of an interdimensional transit hub and build a tower that says we're in charge is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. The micro and macrocosms don't even seem to notice. And while we are successful at slowing the travelers on these planes of existence, even stopping a few that collide with our hardened heads, our destiny is obviously one of being washed away with the flood as our planet evolves around us. It doesn't matter how tall we build our castles of protection, the sands of time will dissolve the illusion of power as we are left unprepared for the rising tides of change. We are but a fading dream of the past and the fossils of the future. It is completely ridiculous to think that we can stop the clock and leave any kind of permanent mark in this world, other than the dead end road of our own dying family tree. The crustacean who insists on permanent residence is never empowered to expand into the next stage of his being, instead fated to suffocate as his body outgrows the capacity of his mind. We have to keep moving, or else our species will become fat, slow, stupid, and unprepared to survive the changing life cycles of a massive planet that we do not have the authority to control. Forgot about us destroying the world with our sorry attempt at infinite creation. Even our everlasting styrofoam will dissolve in a blink of our eye. We are the only victims of our idiocracy as we refuse to admit that our children could ever be smarter than us. And how could they, when we've sheltered them with walls and fences and cages for their own protection? When we've locked them in cities and enslaved them to the farm, no longer free to mature with the rest of life on Earth? Each generation less adaptive for survival, as their inheritance is limited to a weakened photocopy of a blurry genetic code. Domestication stops evolution. That's a scientific fact. That's the whole point of it. A never changing monocrop of consistent consumables. Every undomesticated species on the planet, however, has been getting stronger through the clouds of adversity that are making the rest of us sick. We have reached the critical point in which our children will re enter the competition for survival, but we didn't let them attend practice for fear of getting hurt. They will stand no chance unless we let them out of the kennel and back into the real world. There is no app to download that will replace the experience of participating in evolution. If they don't learn to swim now, they're going to drown in the tidal waves of the gene pool. I hadn't read this in a while. I wrote this book back in like 2017. It's still pertinent. Anyway, Unkage Eden's a real good one just to kind of pick up and read a section. You know, it's free online to download. Maybe if you got like at your book and then just hit like a random, I don't know if you can pick random page when you're reading it like on iTunes or whatever. I only have so long for lunch. I better make sure I keep eating. So I started writing this new book, right? There's a playlist on this channel where I read it, you know, a sentence at a time, a paragraph, whatever I write. I've been writing it here and there. I'm making little videos. So it's the whole playlist from beginning to where I'm at. You know, it's just like that far in. And this book ends up being like 6 notebooks. We'll see what this one is. My last one got quite a bit shorter. Stylish Transient. I don't think I'm gonna have time to read this all from the beginning, so I'll read this whole section about all right, this whole last thing I've been writing on this whole last week, kind of about homelessness and traveling and some of them. Now we're starting to get somewhere, striking nerves with every sentence from my lifetime. This method of sharing my writing on YouTube, as I'm writing it, is really connecting with folks, especially those that for some reason the way I live my life seems to bother them on such a deep level, perhaps stirring reflection on the places in which they've committed their energy and sentenced their lifetime to. The people that are always like, who would want to listen to you, bum? Get a job. Why are you wasting your life away writing when you could be building something meaningful? Oh yeah, good one. But also, I've heard that bum thing throughout my journey, on the side of the road, flying a sign for a ride from one humanitarian endeavor to the next. People that don't take the time to see me as human, but on the flip side, I've been so deeply touched by those who stop and spark conversation, and the inspiration ignites for both of us. What a beautiful ride. So yesterday, I posted a video on that last bit. And unlike most of my videos, I took a minute to share some off-the-cuff personal insights into the experience of an unsheltered human, and the ways in which other humans deem appropriate to treat someone they view as lesser than themselves, without consideration of the unfortunate circumstances that led a fellow human to find themselves stuck in a permanent survival situation. And it resonated deeply with my YouTube audience. They had much to say with beautiful words of support that far outweighed the occasional naysayer that sparked this discussion of what they call being a bum. So in this most non-fictional way of writing that we're collectively assembling, I do believe this next chapter will have much to say about the plight of the unsheltered human and what we're going to do about it. Or not, it's kind of up to you, so comment below if you have any better ideas, and of course like and subscribe. Today in my time zone it's Monday, and I've had all weekend to reflect on our topic of unsheltered humans. My travels throughout the streets have given me an inside perspective, while my commitment to using no money kept me free of guilt when all I had to offer was a hand-rolled cigarette. But now that I've quit smoking and started using money again, I find myself in a stoplight dilemma, as I use money to support my family, and I use my privilege to help those without it. So now I roll up to a stoplight and I panic. Certainly want to help, and I will. Luckily, now that I use money, I'm generally broker than ever. But I also have a grapefruit or a seltzer or some other type of healthy alternative to street food that I know would have made my day when I was at the roadside attraction. Feeding someone in need is of course worthy of accolade, but it's only a band-aid on the broken wing of society. A drop in the bucket for the well-wishers to toss their pennies, although I guarantee we're not going to solve world hunger by paying an even larger tithe to the same agricultural hierarchy that kicked off this imbalance to begin with. And building more houses won't solve any crisis either. Except stakeholder satisfaction. There's already 10 times the amount of empty houses than homeless people. In America, there's already 10 times the amount of empty houses in America than homeless people. So cutting down another habitat to limit resources is no answer to this equation. Of course, all of this is coming from the same transient that committed all that hard time to building mud huts through unsheltered earth and now finds himself engineering a 65-room transitional housing project for the chronically homeless. Ironical indeed. And simply giving a house to a homeless person doesn't exactly address the systemic issue that put them in that predicament to begin with. Nor does it set them up for success as they attempt to climb out of it. The most vital element in establishing a way of life where we look after our most vulnerable is a strong community. It's a fundamental need for all humans, and most especially those cast out by the rest of society. My top commenters love to point out the depths of addiction and mental health crisis that will make my dreams impossible. And certainly those are real issues that affect far more than the unsheltered population. And our transitional housing facility will have those community resources built in, as does our Earth House project on the reservation. But it's also worth pointing out the majority of homeless folks are not faced with those issues. They're not the ones you see washed up on the sidewalks. They're sleeping in their cars. They're still clocking in to serve you coffee in the morning. 3/4 of our unsheltered population are temporarily homeless. A run of bad luck has them on hard times, in a vulnerable state where a strong community can easily lift them up to gain enough traction to climb out on their own. Or the sideways glance of judgment might just be enough to convince them to give the addiction route a try. Would you say there's a bug on me? I love bugs. The critics refuse to reach a handout to another. Not on my dime, commented the first responder of my last paragraph. But it's only within their sacred money system that helping another is reduced to a transactional handout. Our community operates a free thrift store, a free soup kitchen, a free community garden. I do the cage-free mechanic service. We literally build houses out of dirt, and all with 100% volunteers, no dimes involved. We simply extend a helping hand, and as folks get back on their feet, they most often join our League of Good Doers. Nobody's getting rich to prove their worth to society, but our community is far more priceless than a paycheck. I'll keep rolling with it, but just kind of, Stylish Transient was very meta fiction and went from a lot of different perspectives. It was back and forth from third person to first person and outside perspectives. And this book is also that, this is the guy that's right. There's a person that's discussing the book that they're writing, and then there's the book that they're writing, and within that, and then if you want to try and follow all that, go back and watch this playlist. It's all on a playlist on this channel called DJ's New Book. It starts back at the beginning, and maybe some of the long form videos will kind of break down how the different perspectives are tying together. And so it seems the next topic of his conversation will likely touch on his inside perspectives of living outdoors, unsheltered within a city of vacant vacation homes. He'll probably paint the portraits of reflection he experienced with each humanization of homeless statistics. He met incredible people with much to say who have found themselves living juxtaposed to our society's dominant culture, as had he. And once you stop to genuinely listen to another human spin their yarn, it all seems a little less cut and dry than the cookie-cutter suburban fairy tale they'd have you believe. I'm sure he'll mention his Earthbag housing project as he unpacks the kaleidoscope of social issues that have led us here, and the ways in which community can rebuild a way of life in harmony with the natural laws that govern far more judiciously than whatever it is we've come up with in the meantime. All of that rant will undoubtedly wind its way back to his new construction project he keeps alluding to. A paperwork desk job with a salary and a schedule, somehow more deeply in alignment with his life's work than he ever could have consciously manifested. Now that's a yarn worth unraveling. His transition from living completely free of money while building houses for unsheltered folks to living in a house that costs money while building houses for unsheltered folks. There were many steps of evolution in between as he pushed his boundaries and found a new way to live in balance with his spiritual path and the concrete sidewalk, always maintaining that deep trust in the guided unfolding of his journey, and knowing that he was always in the right place at the right time with everything he needed, while holding the vision of a way of life he'd gladly live for free as income came in through the side door of the continued outpouring from his heart into the world. So that's where we're at so far with this. So how, it's got all these several different perspectives. And so we started off with that one perspective, which was him discussing the book that he's writing. And then it moves into that book because this book, like you said, he's discussing how his transition from living just purely kind of in this spiritual world and this idealistic way and living on the reservation, and living in ceremony and living in the woods and in prayer and on vision quest and all these things. But now, the life that I'm in right now living back in society, living back in a house and back in the concrete world and back using money. I didn't use money for 8 years. And so now I'm back into using money and carrying a phone. I didn't carry a phone for all those years. And now I'm finding that balance of, being able to live within this world, but still live in that way with that integrity, with that connection, and not sacrificing that. A lot of that has to do with work or money or finding a work that still is, is genuine to yourself and sincere to yourself. I've done it, blessed enough to have done it, For years, I built these houses for free on the reservation out of dirt. That's what Stylish Transient is about. It's about a lot of things, but, a lot of it is about these Earthbag building project community that we did in South Dakota. And so, building houses for unsheltered folks is something I certainly would do for free. Or did it for a bunch of years, hard with a shovel and with no power tools, just out on the res. And so now, within the concrete world, to be presented this opportunity to be working on this 4-story transitional housing unit structure, it's like an apartment complex kind of thing, but it's got mental health resources and sobriety resources in conjunction with the local shelter. So certainly that's what I would do for free. I could never do out of dirt. I won't say never. Can't currently do out of dirt. For me to be able to be within a city and still constructing something like a degree, they want me based on knowing what I've committed my life to. Degree, they want me based on knowing what I've committed my life to, and knowing I'm pretty capable at doing so. So they want me to be the engineer on this project, and every day I wake up excited to go to work because it doesn't feel like work. It is work. It's a whole new challenge because it's a paperwork and desk job. That's not what I do. Building those earth houses with a shovel out in the 110-degree day, that didn't feel like work. That's, when you can find that thing that you do for free, every day waking up, you don't have to put your life onto the side. You don't have to work for the weekend and save for retirement. So that's what a lot of, this book or my current lessons are figuring out how to take these things that maybe I was able to embody because I was living without money and because I was living off the grid, and it was easy to live dedicated to being present in the moment whenever you don't have to go to work. And so learning how to balance that out in this world. Anyway, you want to check out the new book, there's a playlist. I put the link in the description of this. I'm sharing it like a sentence at a time. There's a whole list of shorts, so you can just watch the whole playlist. All my other books, free online. This Uncaged Eden's a good one to get in print. So you can just kind of open it up, or maybe you can get like a random thing for your whatever. Maybe I'll just try and find something quick to leave you with out of this book. Here we go. Plants are our most wondrous creation. They nourish the essence of our being as they bring life to the light within. They connect us to the universe through the marriage of sun and earth. Plants are medicine for the soul. They heal the vibration of the heart as they repair discord among the senses. They contain the harmonious instructions of returning balance to the symphony. Plants are aligned with the cycles of life. They awaken to the first vibration of light and retire as the darkness settles in. They spiral closer to perfection with every waking breath. Plants hold the memories of a time undivided, an era of oneness before kingdoms were separated. They are the keys to unlocking the reunion of species as we grow towards the unification of life. The plants of the world play a vital role in the path of our own bloodline. Through their knowledge, we will sprout the wisdom of living in a good way. The relationships to be built are not metaphorical. We must offer the energy of our love in order to build a vibrational bond between us. Your connection to the energetic interplay of sun and earth is directly related to the sacred songs of the Green Nation.